Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central, and here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Hello, Foxborough. How are you doing? Welcome to another episode of Foxborough Central, where you and I have the great opportunity to take a look at and meet the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Along with us today is our guest, Angela Davis. Angela, how are you doing?
Morning, Bob. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here on this gorgeous fall day.
It is beautiful.
And what makes it more beautiful is the fact that you're here to talk about our local Republican Party. Maybe not even the local Republican Party, state Republican Party. I know that you are a major player when it comes to all things Republican in the Commonwealth. Is that fair to say?
Involved, yes. Yeah, sure.
I'm trying to build you up. It's going to work. By the time this show is over, you'll be signing autographs and having pictures taken. So, Angela, it's great to have you out here. Let's start off with local. You are the chair of our Foxborough Republican Party.
That's
Foxborough
right.
Town, Foxborough. What is the name of it?
The Foxborough Republican Town Committee.
There you go.
That's right.
Tell me about it.
Well, I had big shoes to fill. I took over some years ago after my daughter was born and remain involved today. And it's just a great group of people. And I've been doing that for, I'd say, about 7 years now.
Really? It's been that, wow. Seems just like yesterday.
Yeah, time does fly.
Time does fly,
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of time flying, you do that, and family, you mentioned your daughter was born?
Right, so my son is 12, and my daughter is now 10, and so I had a very young family at the time, but you know, there's always been a desire and intention in my life to give back and to serve, and particularly the direction of our Commonwealth and being involved at that level. So
let's talk about that. You mentioned,
Great.
and of course, your husband?
Yes, my husband, Michael, he's an attorney in Providence. Yeah.
And he has been involved also. In fact, I worked with him many years back and working on the Patriot Place, the original Patriot Place negotiations for the acquisition of additional liquor licenses from the Commonwealth and all that went in it. I thought those were very successful negotiations. So he was a good, he worked well for our town, yes. Yeah. So I don't know if folks remember that, but he's one of the good guys. So,
Thank you.
Don't tell him I said that, though.
I appreciate that.
But no, seriously, your family has been involved from many, and of course, your father.
Right. Well, I would say that politics was never an intention of mine to go into. And I remember being at the Ahern Middle School, and my dad was running for chair of the Board of Selectmen.
Your father, of course, is Neil Forster.
Neil Forster, right. And he was one of a handful of attorneys in town at the time with a private practice. So, you know, it was interesting, but from sort of, you know, being very young at the time in an outside perspective. So,
but it is interesting because when you meet folks, and I've had the pleasure of meeting people through this program as well as through other things, and you do see families who have a certain bend, if you will, towards community service, a bent towards teaching, a bent towards any particular thing that their children and grandchildren, not that I'm getting older, but, do tend to have sort of the same makeup as far as how they give back or how they participate or how they work. And so with that, it's not surprising that you have taken, I won't say an activist role, but an involvement role as far as maybe our state political.
Right.
Because I understand you're also on the state executive committee for the
Massachusetts Republican Party, that's right.
And
so I serve as
by the way, we're
secretary.
going to, there are Republicans in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, so don't fall off your chairs, everybody. This is a legitimate party.
Right, very blue state, but we're at 11% presently. So I mean, I think that, you know, to me anyway, my way of thinking, I have an obligation to be involved and give my time and to volunteer, and that's something I'm pretty passionate about. And I think I've had good role models to encourage that. So.
Well, I've also had the pleasure of working with Neil on committees, and and again, don't tell your father this, but always enjoy working with him, and he's now serving on our zoning board.
He is still very involved, and he gives a lot of his time in terms of practicing law still, so he's still heavily involved. He loves the town like I do, so we're very fortunate to be able to raise our family here. So now there's, what is it now? 2, 3, there's 3 generations, 4
Really?
Generations of us, yeah.
So you're the daughter of a lawyer, and you're married to a lawyer,
Yes.
and yet you're still a nice person.
Yeah.
We are debunking myths left and right here.
Right, right.
That Republicans can be nice, that we
Right.
don't have horns. And I am a Republican. I'm a Reagan Republican. And I had the pleasure. My first vote I was able to cast was for Reagan back in,
Right.
well, whenever. But it is great to have a strong Republican presence, and the way the Commonwealth is set up along political lines, the I-95, Interstate 95 corridor does seem to be a population,
Right.
a heavier population of Republicans than elsewhere in the Commonwealth.
Right.
So it's a good place to be as far as having a political voice, and I suppose that's where we're bringing everything back to the local Republican Party. To have a political voice, you need to have active members, and you need to have a voting bloc. And so this creates that.
Right. And what I tend to say is that we live in sort of a sweet spot of the Commonwealth. I refer to it that way. We have independent thinking, independent voters here who tend to really carry the day and are quite centrist and conservative in terms of their financial thinking and in terms of the direction that our state should be going, and centrist. And in terms of the state, we're at 11% in a very blue state. But this does tend to be sort of a conservative sweet spot for the state.
And not sure why the population is that way along this stretch, because we certainly, and to quote one of my early enjoyable, I won't call him a mentor because he doesn't know me from Adam, but Howie Carr, the People's Republic of Cambridge, or out in the Berkshires, we certainly are demographically set up that way. So the question now is, what do I, if I'm in Foxborough, and I am, and hopefully you are watching this, and I am a Republican, and I would like to become involved with my local Republican Party, does that mean I have to give 15 hours a week? Do I have to hold a sign? Do I have to bang on doors? Do I have to go chain myself to a radiator at the State House and protest taxes? What do I have to do?
Yeah, so, there's a menu of options of how people can choose to get involved. For me, I'm a full-time working mom of 2 young children, and so you find ways to fit it in. And we all have strengths in different areas, and I firmly believe that you should give people the opportunity to get involved in the way that they want to be involved. So you're not obligated to any set number of meetings or any particular activities. I like for people to choose what they want to be involved in. We meet the 3rd Thursday of every month at the South Foxborough Community Center.
Right down South Street?
Correct. And we've got a very busy year coming up. So it's a gubernatorial year. Our legislators are up for re-election. And we've been well served in this area by really principled and great people. Representative Barrows, of course.
And Representative Barrows, of course, that you mentioned a long series, and it seems as though that seat has been held by a Republican for decades.
Right.
For Barbara Highland, of course.
Yes.
A good friend. And
we were well served by her.
And Michael Coppola, another great, and then his lovely wife Jenny picked up, and now Jay has been in office for 8 years, is it?
Time does fly. It feels like that's about right. And going forward, I think I look at the makeup of the state, and we only have 30 Republican legislators, I believe it is, in a House chamber, where there are 160 members. So, to me, to my way of thinking as a centrist, I feel like there's this inequity. And we have to make sure that all people in the Commonwealth, not just Republicans, that everyone is well represented. And how do you get there with such an imbalance of power? In times where, we just experienced the gas taxes now indexed, these increasing taxes, and the inability for folks in the Commonwealth to express that they don't want necessarily any more new taxes or increased in taxes. Why? When our budgets in our own home are out of whack, or we're challenged by something, what do, Bob? You sit down at the kitchen table with your wife and say, something's got to give here. Let's figure this out together. And it's common sense. We're not allowed to spend beyond our means. And so I guess for a lot of us, we look at the imbalance of power in Beacon Hill and we just say, when will there be a restoration of common sense and some middle of the road thinking? I have yet to see a vigorous economic recovery with this governor. And I know a lot of promises have been made, but I think his speeches now, he's a great public speaker, but his speeches are now becoming a depreciating asset in some form. So.
Well, and I would agree with that, and I've had the pleasure of meeting Governor Patrick as well, and that he's coming to the conclusion of his second term, and
Correct.
Massachusetts law says that there will be a new governor coming
right.
into the State House next session. So, crystal ball, who do you think is going to win the Republican? I don't want to put you on the spot here. Maybe there's
Right.
20 Republicans out there who are vying, and they're going to see this and they're all going to give
Right.
up, and I don't want that to happen.
Right, right.
But I'm going to ask it anyway because that's what I do.
Right. Well, as the state committee woman, I have 9 towns in my district, all the way from Seekonk, Rehoboth, all the way up to Medfield and Walpole.
And we haven't even touched on that yet. So
okay.
we're going to get,
Right.
thank you. This is only a half-hour program. I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let Angela go.
But it's one of my responsibilities to attempt to remain neutral pre-primary. But I will say that out of the gate, we've got an incredibly qualified man of great integrity and common sense, Charlie Baker. He already ran, and I helped him last time I was in his field organization. And he has asked me to step up and take a lead role this time as well. And of course, for he and for Scott Brown, I'm ready to go. And, Charlie has a tremendously strong resume. He walks the walk. And he's someone who is genuinely interested, I like to say for the right reasons, to serve the Commonwealth. And this country and our state, we need problem solvers. And that's truly what I think that the people want to see too. We need more people coming to the table willing to run and lead the Commonwealth, lead the country, but are willing to be problem solvers and come together for the right reasons and serve the country. So Charlie's someone I've known for a number of years, and he is an entrepreneur, very strong business background. He's served Governor Romney. He's well-seasoned in terms of the needs and the economic pattern of the Commonwealth. And he's ready to restore some common sense and willing to work with both sides, which is, I think, refreshing.
Well, that's also something that's severely lacking
Right.
in Washington, D.C., so hopefully Beacon Hill will be a little different and progress will be made. And of course, I do hope that you will consider coming back as the election draws near, as we would also hope that the Democrat running for the State House would come in to us and help share their messages to the voters.
Sure.
But right now, I'm
Yeah.
looking to talk about all Foxborough all the time, because the name of this program is Foxborough Central. I'm here with my guest, Angela Davis, who is the chair of the Foxborough Republican Town Committee.
Right.
If I wanted to join forces with my fellow Republican brethren, how would I do that? How do I get in touch with you? I know that the meetings are on the third Thursday of every month at the South Foxborough Community Center.
Right.
Starting at what time?
7 o'clock.
Okay. Do I have to wear an elephant on my lapel to
No,
get
you
in,
don't.
or just show
There's
up?
no menu that anyone needs to subscribe to. So,
Okay.
yeah,
But what if I need more information before that? How do I get in touch?
I have a lot of people that just call me, and I'll give you my number. It's 508-740-2953.
508-740-2953.
740-2953. And my email, adavisff@gmail.com. And I've had plenty of folks get in touch with me, just cold call. And also candidates, just kind of say, I'm thinking of running for this. And so...
Getting a little information. So the Republican Town Committee isn't just a rah-rah group. It's also a group that helps encourage folks to get involved. And, and so it's a resource. It's a social organization. Also, I imagine the state delegates are somehow culled from this group.
Yes. So in terms of the state convention, going into gubernatorial year, we will have a couple of delegates from this area.
Okay.
When we're going into presidential year, post-primary, we elect delegates to the national convention. And I was honored to serve then Governor Romney. I went down to Tampa as a delegate with Representative Barros. So, yeah, but it's not a rah-rah group. This is a way for people, as I say, Bob, to choose their level of involvement. You don't have to come to every meeting. We have just under 80 members. It's a really big group. We have a full slate each time we go to the Secretary of State's office with our register. And just great people. Everyone's got skills and desires and strengths in different areas, so it's an opportunity to get involved in the way that you would like to be involved.
Okay.
So.
Well, with over 80 members, and that sounds as though it's a well-involved, well-run,
Thank you.
interesting, because, and we all know this from folks who watch this program, are often involved with many things, sports, civic organizations, professional organizations. You have to have a level of interest, and it has to be fun to participate in order to participate. Because nobody likes getting their teeth pulled too often before they stop going to the dentist.
Right.
You can only go to a civic group so many times before you're put upon and say, no mas. So if I wanted to, or say a viewer at home wanted to come and participate, what are some of the fun things that go on? I realize that politics, and many of you, I'm a political junkie, so I enjoy this sort of thing. Maybe that's why I do what I do in my volunteer time. I don't know. Someday maybe there'll be a Foxborough Central about me. I don't think so. Not that interesting. But if I was truly, sipping the Kool-Aid and said to myself, I would really like to become part of this group, what sort of interesting things could I do? What sort of roles are there?
Right. So we have events. We do a lot of programming. Most recently, in the past election cycle, we would have speakers come in, and there are an array of activities that we do. So of course, when we're ramping up to an actual election, there's sign holding. There's a lot of what I call grassroots activities to try and get out the vote and to energize the base. But I think it's important that we have people come in and speak to us. We've had Michael Graham, Todd Feinberg, Charlie's come down, Senator Brown comes down a lot when he's around. Just living down the street is helpful. He's been known to stop in his pickup truck and just come in and say hi. But we've had a really, I'd say, energetic program of activities. And folks come in, there's time for Q&A. we have Representative Barros come in and do a Beacon Hill update.
Okay.
Usually each meeting there's a segment of our agenda which is dedicated to Representative Barros, letting us know about pending legislation. What are some of the things that are going on in Beacon Hill? I would say, it's not just young families, everyone's really busy. And so it's really hard to keep your pulse on the minutia of what's happening on Beacon Hill. So it's helpful to hear from someone who's up there fighting the fight on the things that we're not hearing about. And that's the stuff that I think people need to know more about.
And that's an excellent point, because the news, and I'm not going to get into a Fox and Friends versus the liberal stuff. That's a bunch of horse hockey, in my opinion. Everything is done from a human perspective, and all news, all stories, all tales is done with a bias. And it's not even an intentional bias usually. It's just there's a bias from how we grew up, what our delivery style is. I talk the way I talk. Am I biased? Of course I am. But at the same time, the information that I'm imparting is what I believe to be an unbiased delivery. So get all that media nonsense out of the way. The reality is that a news headline is what we look at in the newspaper. For those of us who still read newspapers, and I do, and so should you, the news headline is what captures our attention. And then if we read, we're going to go progressively less and less and less, unless it's a truly captivating story. And politics isn't usually all that captivating, truth be told. So how do you find out what's really going on in Beacon? Of course, folks can tune into Foxborough Central. We've been honored to have Senator Timilty with us, and I know that at a future airing date, we're going to be honored to have Representative Barros in with us as well to give us Beacon Hill updates. I love the term. I might actually have to steal that in my next interview. I feel pardon my doing that. The key is, though, getting the information. So that's a great way, you're saying, to get the true story of what's going on up in Beacon Hill, not a 30-second news snippet on WBZ radio, not a headline out of the Herald or the Globe.
Yeah, well, a lot of folks don't realize that really good legislation has been put into study, and it's just sort of marginalized to the side and doesn't make it to the chamber.
Which is a tool at the State House to essentially not act upon it, which means it essentially kills the bill.
When they put it into committee, it's jargon for it not going into the chamber and not having a vote. And, I think that if more people knew about the initiatives, and I'm sure you'll get into more of this with Representative Barros, there's because of the imbalance there, they're able to control what's going into committee and what's not making it out there for a vote, and what is not going to the people for a vote as well. So, there are some mechanisms in place whereby the people, the taxpayers, can force the issue. So, there can be a petition, there can be, which has been exercised a lot.
Well, the most recent one was, I believe,
roll back
correct
the
me if I'm wrong,
tax.
rolling back the gas tax.
Yeah, that's a tremendous initiative right now.
That's right. Now,
they
the
need
last one that was
100.
successful was the one where they rolled back the state income tax to the 5% level. Am I incorrect on that?
Well,
although that didn't really stick.
It didn't make it, and the voter ID was another one. And so, Governor Patrick promised some years ago that he would roll back the sales tax, and promises made, promises seen through are broken.
We could do a whole episode on that, but we're not going to.
Right.
So there's an initiative now to roll back the gas tax.
Correct.
And the gas tax is a pretty sneaky tax for folks who pay attention at the pump. They'll know that gasoline does not truly cost what we're paying. There's a significant tax levy imposed by the Commonwealth, similar to cigarettes. And it's and as a non-smoker, it falls under my radar, but these are, and I'm not even going to call it a sin tax because everybody uses gasoline. And it's one of those things where, because it's wrapped into the price you see, as opposed to paying $2.80 a gallon,
Right.
and then having the clerk at the register add another 59 cents a gallon times however many gallons you get, I think that would be a huge
Right.
wake-up call to folks if they were to actually pay.
Right.
Pay what it is, and then have that amount added to the bottom. It's similar to when you go to a restaurant, you get your 7%
right.
tax, because if the meals tax rolled in, you say, "Oh, that's interesting."
It's easily
It'd be
identifiable.
really
right.
interesting.
Exactly.
So, what is the initiative?
So, the initiative, like other things, it's a sort of a, as you put it, a sneaky tax. It's embedded, and it's indexed now. And we need 100,000 signatures to get it on the ballot.
That's a lot of signatures.
To put it to the people, right? And so that is an inordinate task. But we're getting great response, and I think that they're almost at 50% of the signatures.
Okay.
So that's significant.
Now, is there a way to get a hold of a petition that could be signed for folks
Contact
easily?
me, yes, absolutely.
Contact you at,
We have
I'm going to
them.
do this, adavisff@gmail.com.
That's right. That's great.
I like it. Or they can call you directly at your phone number, 508-740-2953.
That's
And I'm
right.
sure those numbers are appearing on your screen because we've got phenomenal editors here at Foxborough Central who make the graphics sparkle.
Yeah.
So, something we haven't touched upon, in volunteerism, and this is truly volunteer, this is not a paid position, I'm assuming, to be
Absolutely.
chairman of the Foxborough Republican Town Committee. You're also on the state committee.
Yes.
You're on the executive board of the state committee.
Yes. So there's the chair, the vice chair,
And who's the
myself,
chair this year?
and the treasurer, Kirsten Hughes.
Okay.
And she and I both worked on Senator Brown's campaign and his reelection. And so it's a busy group.
Mm-hmm.
I have 9 towns, and am charged with making sure that all the town committees in my district are fully formed and ready to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work. You know what they say? Ask a busy person to do a good job. And
That's what they say,
That's what they say. So to folks at home who may say, I'm too busy, I don't have enough time, your rejoinder back would be, yeah, but give it a shot. You'll come on out.
Yeah.
I bet you'll be able to figure this out too. Third Thursday
Third
of every month
Thursday
at
of
the
every
South
month,
Foxborough
right?
Community
And you can, find me in a soccer field because I'm busy too.
Center. I always see you
We're
around
just-
town.
Yep.
And every once in a while I actually see you in Boston.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. It's true.
Angela, our time, as always, has flown by. I'm going to give you the last word for the Foxborough Republican Town
Well, I'm
Committee.
really grateful. I appreciate your inviting me, Bob. It's always nice to chat with you. And I would just say at this stage of things happening in our country and in our Commonwealth, it's really important for people to get involved. And so if you're interested in lower taxes, limited government, and just restoring balance to a great state in our incredibly awesome town of Foxborough, I would encourage folks to get in touch with me. I'd love to meet you and sit and grab a cup of coffee like we are.
Well, I love coffee. Angela Davis,
It's so
Chairman
good to see
of the
you.
local Republican Party. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you,
taking
Bob.
the time to spend with us here at Foxborough Central. Speaking of us at Foxborough Central, we are all volunteers. And if you would like to learn about how to volunteer, not only for the Town Republican Committee, but also for Foxborough Cable Access, please feel free to check us out at www.fcatv.org. Of course, that's where you can also find back episodes, including this one, of Foxborough Central. On behalf of all the volunteers and Executive Director Michael Weber, I want to thank you for joining us. If you need anything else from Foxborough Cable Access, call us at 508-543-4757. I'm Bob Hickey. I've been your host. Have a great day, Foxborough.
It was great. It's nice to be here. I appreciate it.